Hey guys, I admit this math problem was a little bit of a challenge. It took me a while to figure out, and it's going to take me a while to explain it. I probably shouldn't even make this video, but I put all this work into it, so let's do it. If you want to try this on your own, pause it right now because I'm going to solve it in 3, 2, 1. So this is made up of two semicircles with a diameter of 36, and we have this green circle crammed in here, and we want to find its radius. I have no idea what this yellow circle is doing here, and it's going to be in my way, so let's get rid of it. First, I want to connect from the center of this circle to this endpoint right here. This entire length is a radius of this circle, so it'll be half of 36, which is 18. Now let's split this into two parts. This orange part is a radius of the green circle, so it will be capital R. And this yellow part is going to be the entire length 18 minus this capital R. So we'll just call it 18 minus R. And now we don't need this 18 anymore, and we don't need this orange stuff either. Let's draw another radius here and call it R. Now let's connect these 2 points here and call it X. Every radius is always at right angles to the tangent line at the point of tangency. So we know this is a right triangle, and therefore we can use Pythagorean theorem. We can say r squared plus x squared is equal to the quantity 18 minus r squared. And 18 minus r squared means the same thing as 18 minus r times 18 minus r. So we can multiply this out. 18 times 18 is equal to 324. 18 times negative r is negative 18r. Negative r times 18 is negative 18r. And negative r times negative r is r squared. So we have r squared plus x squared equals 324 minus 18r plus r squared. First, let's subtract r squared from both sides. On the left-hand side, all we have left over is x squared. And on the right-hand side, we have 324, and negative 18r minus 18r is negative 36r. And then on the right-hand side, we can factor out a common term of 36. 36 times 9 is equal to 324, and 36 times r is equal to 36r. So all we did for this step is factor 36 out of this step. Next, we can square root everything on both sides of the equation. Since we know x is positive, square root of x squared is x. And the square root of 36 is equal to 6, and square root of 9 minus r is square root of 9 minus r. So now we have x in terms of r. And now going up to the diagram, let's get rid of this stuff. But let's leave x alone. Next, from the center of this green circle, let's drop a perpendicular line down to this diameter. And then let's draw from the same point to the center here. And then let's connect these 2 points to make another right triangle. Let's focus on the hypotenuse first. This piece of the hypotenuse is a radius of the green circle, so it will be equal to r. And the remaining piece is a radius of this semicircle, so that's going to be half of 36, which is 18. So this entire hypotenuse is going to be r plus 18. Next, let's connect this radius and call it r. And let's draw the same line down here. And it's going to be congruent to this line, so it has a length of r. And this red piece plus this yellow piece will be equal to half of 36, which is 18. And that means this yellow piece is going to be equal to the whole thing 18 minus this r. And now that we know this length, just to keep things clean, let's get rid of this stuff. Now let's move this label down here. Let's call the third side of this right triangle y. And now we can use Pythagorean theorem again. We can say that y squared plus the quantity 18 minus r squared is equal to the quantity r plus 18 squared. We'll just bring down the y squared. We already did 18 minus r squared. It was 324 minus 36r plus r squared. And then 18 plus r squared would be 324 plus 36r plus r squared. So now we have an r squared on both sides, so those will cancel each other out. And we have a positive 324 on both sides, those will also cancel each other out. So all we're left with on the left-hand side is y squared minus 36r. And all we're left with on the right-hand side is 36r. Then we can add 36r to both sides. These cancel each other out, so on the left-hand side, we only have y squared. And on the right-hand side, 36r plus 36r is 72r. And once again, I want to factor out a 36. On the inside of the parentheses, that would be 2r, because 36 times 2r is 72r. Next, we can square root everything on both sides of the equation. Since the y is positive, we know square root of y squared is equal to y. And then square root of 36 is equal to 6. And then we can just bring down the square root of 2r. And now we have y in terms of r, so this is a good stopping point. And now we have x and y. Let's extend this part down here so that both sides are congruent. And this red portion is going to be half of 36, which is 18. Since we know these two are congruent, we can set 18 plus x equal to y. And then let's subtract 18 from both sides. On the left-hand side, we just have x, and on the right-hand side, we have y minus 18. So we know that x is equal to 6 square root of 9 minus r, so let's change this x into 6 square root of 9 minus r. And that's going to be equal to the y, but y we know is 6 square root of 2r, so we can substitute 6 square root of 2r in for y, and then let's bring down the minus 18. Next, we can divide everything by 6. The left-hand side is just square root of 9 minus r, and the right-hand side is going to be square root of 2r minus 3. And now let's square both sides. On the left-hand side, the square root and the square will cancel each other out, giving us 9 minus r. And on the right-hand side, we're going to have to multiply this out. And to save us time, I'll just let you know it's 2r minus 6 square root of 2r plus 9. Next, we can subtract 9 from both sides, add r to both sides, and let's also add 6 square root of 2r to both sides. This is all going to cancel out, so on the left-hand side, we have 6 square root of 2r. And on the right-hand side, these all cancel out, so we're just left with 2r plus r, which is 3r. And then we can square both sides again. 6 squared is equal to 36. Square root of 2r ends up being 2r. That's going to be equal to 3 squared, which is 9, and r squared is r squared. We can multiply this 36 times 2r to give us 72r. And on the right-hand side, let's just bring down the 9r squared. Next, let's subtract 72r from both sides. On the left-hand side, these will cancel out to give us 0. And on the right-hand side, we have 9r squared minus 72r. Now let's try to factor this. The greatest common factor for both these terms is 9r. And 9r times what gives us 9r squared? That's r. And then 9r times what gives us negative 72r? That's negative 8. So from here, since we have two things multiplied to give us 0, we can say either this thing equals 0 or this thing equals 0. And then 9r equals 0 is the same thing as r equals 0. And since the green circle exists, r cannot be 0. So we can cross that out. So now we know that r is equal to 8. And r is what we were trying to solve for. So let's clean up the diagram and let's bring back that orange circle. And let's change this question mark into an 8. And since that's the answer to the question, let's put a box around it. This was such a long problem. Thank you for joining me to the end. How exciting.